Then Teni Tijini Zorem Lan Sinjega Zorem Kazan Labin Pape Jachimbo Naro Chudona Telejam Mansare. Tenin Simiki Zorem the Zokin Togana Yisen Lamjeran Bachasawa Yodebat and Jere.
The cycle that is the repelling razor of flames contains all stages of the path. So it begins with the preliminary practices and goes all the way through all of the main practices. So it contains the preliminaries, it contains the generation stage in which we meditate upon the Yidam deity, all of the mantra repetitions associated with that. It goes through the completion stage. So as we said yesterday, there is the completion stage with characteristics. And in this cycle, it's very vast in scope, even more detailed than the 6 yogas of Naropa. Then there is the completion stage without characteristics, which also goes all the way till the end, like the end of the Dzogchen teachings. Like Tugel and Dzogchen.
Tene ina tata ngaso nyamsul te tawe nyamsul limpalo tutsu yonrenbo gore tutsu yonrenbo remba yinde tutsu yonrenbo gore ta ngaso ke nyama kashe la nyamsul linjode te na ni chahe je te yang yedam kang nyamsula na ya le ye kan chele dubya je yore wa tende kan chele ke chahe je le byor ke chahe je tende je chahe yore Mune Langa de la Shone, that Mudon, when you Zoran about the Yansolin Sana, that the Surin, Mutsi Pache Teletangurba. But then Nasu Yamakaki Yamnesia te Temare.
So this kind of extensive cycle takes a very long time to complete. But in our case, we only have a few days together to practice. So we're going to only be looking at really one aspect, one facet of this entire cycle. So we can think of it in that way. We can also think of it as a sadhana that applies enlightened activity, a lejor. So it's focusing on the aspect of enlightened activity of the deity. To actually traverse the entire path from the preliminaries all the way through could take a lifetime, and we only have a few days together.
Oh, tene yando me pudre sejutela. Donse da jo. Donse jo ye kongsu do yore. Nenga da jo yo song yore. Te kareres no korsum se yore. Course the karate, Songwaga core, Dobaga core, Sebaga core, Corsum. 10 year, 10 year, main year, 10 in the main river. 10 year the karate. Lagans in like Hinjeta. Nagans in la Ekayama. Sinless in the main river. Nala ekayama. Pe karere, pe kamela, me pudra. Oh, course and sing. Nagan sing. Pe, for example. Me pudra sinatako, chile, tabun chile drum cups, me pudina ye also yorwa. Make put. Line sing la, sedana, nagan sing la, ekayama, pe sing la. May put check carrier what I'm temare. Corsum, see ya. See ya, the check samason. That needs some yore, Nengasum. Nengasum carrier sena. Java zetin. Tan the time that I am the Namsulin pickups the Lendram de Daviala, Colondriatan, Sonkondriatan, Ten Dalike, Salemabo Yoroa, Yaka, Nengake, Colondriatan, Then Tsatsakanadan, Tsatsakana Pejuton Yatan, Te Chik, Then it take the Karisena, Tangaranga Le Karasigoyuna, Tina Yisen, Nala, Nala, Jurata Yoroa. La yala. Sham, nala sham. Te ha kosan. Ta hiwala ina hiwa tapo lana tapo ta le mangbo siya yore. Le re la nga njura tang ha ko gore. Kolon de tang ha ko gore. Le ka kande sikona kollo kande ndre go yo. Chacha kande go go yo. Ne sumte. Kollo tang, chacha tang, tani hlala hiamdo si tang, ngala hiamdo si tang, ne sun, kor sun, si ya, ne sun tang, dimba si, yando me pete tala. Si yu ngala, lan chindu sun, chedano, ngala chindu sun, eka yama, zelan chindu sun, zelan chindu sun, purkan nasi. Zeti, purkan nasi na chacha re, chacha karpo tang napo gogo yorwa. Te tegasa mare, ko nenga yore, koranti, Zotang tang, rotang tang, nangla yok tang tang, so chama ki menga shifta ha go go yore, laga kande se go na tina yisen.
Di Mingji pare me.
Mingji pare.
Okay. Okay. So the repelling razor of flames, the name of this cycle, the repelling razor of flames. We should say the intensely repelling razor of flames, has 3 wheels, 4 names, and 3 key points. So all of these are complete. So the 3 wheels or 3 spheres, the sphere of protection, the sphere of repelling, and the sphere of slaying. Then these 4 names, like sections really, are the first one is the name of the deity is the slayer of the Lord of Death, Yamantaka. The name of the mantra, how do I say it? The holder of mantra maybe is Ekayama. The example, the name for, or we should say the analogy, is the razor of flames, which is an analogy for the wrath, the fierceness, the wrathfulness of the enlightened activity. And then the name of the particular kind of ritual tsatsas. Are you familiar with this word? It's like a little, I don't know how to say it besides tsatsa. It's like a little, it's not a statue, it's not an image of a deity, but it's like it's like a mold. And there's a particular light one and dark one with lots of pith instructions that are very specific to this. So that's the 4th one. So then the 3 key points are the key point of the key point of like the practical instructions for the practice, I would say something like that. So it's how to do the sadhana, how to draw the wheels of protection, the wheels of repelling, all the kinds of tsakli, these, no.
The wheel the protection mari.
Okay. Okay. So it's not a wheel of protection, it's these special like chakra wheels with special specific designs for specific purposes. The tsaklis are these like special images associated with the practices. So that's the first key point, the kind of practical instructions. The second is the translation of the mantra, something like that. So what is how to make meaning of the mantra, like the peaceful mantra, the wrathful mantra. Each mantra has a certain meaning. And then the third is neka supa di korlo rebe. Karare.
Jawa zejine. Kolonda tang. Ngala jando si tang. Take the dream, I think.
It's okay.
One thing I don't remember. Maybe I look.
It'll come back maybe.
Text later. That tonda karalago yoresena. Tata ngatuti nyamsuli juke. Yando me produce jute. Trapu control dupje. So chachama trapu control dupje yamari. So the trapu control dupje. Tetang yamdo teni ngarang ke same ke thing ke karse koro tawa yorwa tawa de te sar ke pa teng sabratong yena short le mangboche ta hibje wanda ke le yore te tin ne trapo ko le mangbo chindi na ne song yorwa teni te indu ta tela ta te nenga chote tina na mandipa yomare nenga chote na mandipa yomare pena na so tata ne chite te la bimba ngala shambe data sungwa se gona ta sungwa ka nga yore te yena jok tene ya nga kha jotang che yorwa dokpa se gona tina yi nga kha jo gorwa la chi parwa nga ta mukpa kha jotang o tik te tere da
Nasa.
mukpa se ta mukpa ramandra se ne tini lekan ramandra dubya yorwa la chi yina ya mukpa mandra wala tini lekan mandra wa chi ya yore te la chi yina ya nga te sa jok nga te sa mandra wala tini teni yang lekan mandra wa chi choge yorwa tusit nenga tha ko go re song
So what is the meaning of describing how complete this cycle is? It's that the intensely repelling razor of flames is a wrathful practice that contains everything. So it's very deep, and its depth aids one in seeing the view. That's the main point, but then, like supplementarily or additionally, there are these enlightened activities that are applied. So there's peaceful, enriching, and magnetizing, but principally it's wrathful, enlightened activity. So there is not a single key point that is omitted from this cycle. There is not a single key point omitted from this cycle. So when what we mean, for example, when we say, like, I said translating the mantra, but maybe it would be like transforming the mantra, maybe is better. So if you want to do protecting activity, then there's a certain mantra that invokes that protection. But if you want to change to repelling activity, then you change the mantra. And when you change the mantra, you change the activity. It becomes repelling. And then Rinpoche remembered the third point, and the third key point is visualization. So there are different visualizations that you can employ. So the point of this is that it's a singular deity, it's one deity, but if you change the mantra of the deity, you change that deity's activity. And similarly, it's one deity, but you can change the visualization of how you're working with that deity to change the activity.
Pena, that's onion also jinsik yorova. That tepele yagana le lao chaksari. Jinsik de la hiwatan, jepata, wang trapos and jitan jinsel yeyong yore. La Jeviri. The Leka Manda yet the Karakasiri. Hiwaka Kabs, on Atroteka Yamantaka Yoktana, Shinten Gore Sohasan.
Yes.
Take Hiwaka Legasiare. Jepala Karadesina, on Atroteka Jiparva. Yoktana Putin Gore Sohazogre. To Putin Gore home pendo. Take Jebel Esia Marva. Then one Galesiala, Washam Kurzogre, Washam Kur. The Tabu Lesiala Maraya Pig Zograva. Lesia not Kajutan to Leriva. Then it make a Kajutan to Yanawa. Shivaka Lega Segona, the Ozer Carpolitin is a go. Jepak Lega Segona, Ozer Sepolitin is a go. One Lega Segona was a Marpolitin is a go. Or Tabu Lega Segona, there was a Jankota, Yan and Tina. Tendalatin, Kajutan, Theatre, Pensions in a theatre.
To illustrate our point kind of easily, we can think about the fire puja. We're going to be doing a fire puja tomorrow morning. So this will illustrate our point nicely about the different visualizations and the different mantras that you can employ to change the activity. So in general, for fire pujas, there's fire pujas for the 4 different enlightened activities. So there's peaceful fire puja, enriching fire puja, magnetizing fire puja, and wrathful fire pujas for a single deity. So depending on which activity you would like to apply, you do that particular fire puja. So for a peaceful fire puja, you say Om. What do you say? What is the mantra?
After Yamantaka mantra.
Okay, after the Yamantaka mantra, you say Shintim Kuruye Soha, and that makes the mantra peaceful, and that uses peaceful activity. But then you retain the same core Yamantaka or Manjushri mantra, and then for the enriching activity, you add Pushtim Kurui Soha, which is enriching. For magnetizing, you say Washam Kurui Soha. And for wrathful, you say Maraya Pet. And so that's how you change the mantra to change the activity. And then how do you change the visualization to correspond? So for the peaceful, you visualize white light going out. For the enriching, you visualize yellow light or golden light. For the magnetizing, you visualize red light. And for the wrathful, you visualize either green or dark blue light.
Tata le ye lapa kapsu tata mangbo chikite lap degindo hiwas in a peaceful lap degindo. The peaceful marida. Hiwas the pa ne don jin pa chi pa hiwarsi pa. Like purifying the world. Tendo kwa lingore.
When we talk about the 4 activities, people always say that Shiva is peaceful, and it isn't peaceful, it's like pacifying. So it's like to purify your illness, demonic influences, these kinds of things.
Oh yeah, that tabuke tatati mingande solapagene rambagende ta so solapagene lopompe manjone la ju lopompe manjone ni ma parpo kan basadaras parpo rindwa basadara la ju teni tiji ni nop sanje hi la ju do nop sanje ji thema mambo la pa yo lan do ni teni tama te la ti damba te nop sanje hi la nani teni chang ma to ma tata te public kan da wasen si chogo mare de ne teni sen do wa te nop sanje hi ka korang ga nyamne se teni ta ti damba te persa ga che dula ma ba se ra tu chu la ma thu yina damba te persa te ngune tene ko cheding ko lo man do mara ne teni tel be do wa te naka ni le be do wa pompo ro che tang lobda konten ni le be do wa
Flotra.
konten sa sa te ni la teni te ji ni lo mangbo che ge ji ni teni ja xiang zhong sen te dong ji song do wa ja xiang zhong de ngune se na Tata Nupsanji is Koran Jevando, Drugundo Redua. Jashandong Tella Tone, the Nirimba in the Bola, Majupate, Rimba in the Jone. Then the Wompa, Rinjin Punsoka Capsa, then in the Honka Yukan the Damati. Lebre. Then Rimba in the Ta, the Honka Yukan Lola, then it Yamlin the Zachimbondo or Zine, Gachimbondo or Zine. Then Yamlin see the young one, Danny Chedin, Chuntuka Goni Yamlin Sen. Then it tell a ta and Sima Tumba, then the Mambo Jong. Then it is Genita, Renzen Chujitapala left. Then it that the teach you the Paja Church town. Renzen Chujitapate, Koran Jangon Chongsan, and Yaba Younger Trupa in Sagayorova.
Rixin Chikita Pagi.
Renzen Chujitapa, Jangon Chongsan first to the Jangon Chongsan River. Jangon Chongsan, Yamba Younger Trupa, Jivari there. Then he hinted Yamba Younger Nam the Yamba Young Plateau, Gojin de Bajin. Then he patched take a man, then he Chudaga Caps that telepe, Jachir Mambotan.
No, Norna Sorona.
Ah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the progression of the lineage is as follows. So we're going to start with Suklak Pelge. And from Suklak Pelge, it goes to Pema Jungne. And from Pema Jungne, it goes to the Nepali Vasudhara. And then from the Nepali Vasudhara, it goes to Nupchen Sanjay Eshe. So Nupchen Sanjay Eshe went to Nepal many, many times. And on his last visit, he was the recipient from Vasudhara of the Yamantaka. But Vasudhara said to Nupchen Sanjay Eshe that you must hold it in secrecy and you cannot make it public. So Nupchen Sanjay Eshe meditated upon the practice and waited for the correct time to bestow the teaching to a suitable disciple. But upon not finding such a suitable disciple or time, Nupchen Sanjay Eshe hid this teaching as a terma, as a hidden treasure. And it is said to be hidden in two different places. One is in Rioche and one was Hlotrak Korteng. So we fast forward a long time, and then the first one to reveal the treasure was Gya Shangtrom. So this is the way that the transmission comes to Tibet. So from Gya Shangtrom, the lineage goes through Tibet, and finally for the Drikung Kagyu, and it enters in the Drikung Kagyu with Rinchen Punsol. And the teaching was considered to be very profound, very important, a truly authentic teaching. But the one who perfected the teaching with all of the signs and signs of success of the practice, the Rinchen Punsok Jine, the Rinchen Punsok ne Rigzin Chiki Drakbo Bardo Chikdue.
Yore, the Malona de Yorba.
Okay.
Mambo Yore.
Mangbo Yore, okay. There's lots of people in between, but then was Rigzin Chiki Drakba, so sometimes Dharma Kirti in Sanskrit. Rigzin Chiki Drakba is the one responsible for really proliferating the teaching in the Drikung Kagyu. So he was the first Kyabgun Chungsang, and then so he is an incarnation of Rinchen Punsok.
Marida.
Okay. Tukuti.
Chujitagwa's emanation of Manjushri.
Of Manjushri, okay.
Yeah, that's why he did develop this teaching, because Yamantaka is emanation of Manjushri too. Teni tata nga so nyane se driptam de yang chuji tapa ke tiyali ridwa.
So this sadhana that we're talking about is from Chukyi Drakpa.
Chuji tapa ke hinje ke chuko mangbo yore. Kore ke song yore. Kong ke tega sare korang ke durpa na yi se ne trimi isa. Korang ke ye yaksa te teni jagani yongjo ke ju yore, ju tantra. Tu tso ke na yi. Teni kong ke te dreva kapse yang te tawa ndretang mende se ne te yedam la sorwa tam na, tam ne. Teni yedam ngu su xiaan je wa tam na. Yang na yedam ke che ta te tawa che jine yapo yorin dawa ke kong la teni nangwa chun wan dawa ta. Te tawa ke taan tsima che yoba la teni teni kong ke ta so tripa yin se ne. Te ke drup tap ke yin la mangbo tri yorwa.
So Rijun Chukyi Drakpa didn't just write this practice how he felt like. He consulted the Indian tantras of the deity and wrote accordingly. Additionally, he supplicated the Yidam deity for permission, and upon receiving signs and indications of success of that permission, he then wrote this. He wrote this down, and this sadhana has many branches, many sections.
Tata nga tso nyane si ju te ti jerem dupan ra ho chi re. Yena na lu pe mangbo yo re. Teni ti jerem jepa da ka yo re se na. Nga tso ta hin ji drup chin so pa kap so chen dong yo wa. Te ta jerem jepa re. Ti na yi na lu chi pa chi chang se ne teni tsek te se nyon ro tan ri ya pan de re.
This text is concise. And yet contains so much of the inner meaning. So what is the more elaborate text? It is the text that we use in the Drupchen of Yamantaka. That's the extensive text. And this text contains all of that meaning, but with fewer words.
Oh yeah, that thing do. Tell us what you command na. Dala jamdo ti jando, jamdo sikti do. Jamdo sikti je do jokpo sanji tamji tan chongjo na la da jang. Ti tsek re yen don de che go sa mari sa po do.
Yes.
Tan de ju kana ge tsek. Nam je na nga so drtan ro ka de ti jamdo dan sanji te so ba lama ge zom korang ge zom ge yo re wa. De zam ya ba mari. Ju na lo yo ba de ga ran ya yo ta.
Ale. So we're opening to page 3, to Refuge in Bodhicitta. We don't actually have to go line by line because some of it is quite self-explanatory. What's notable here is that often a text begins with a Refuge in Bodhicitta section composed by the Lama whose text it is, but that is not the case here. The case here is this is directly from the Tantra.
Tēlan te xe gōsā mā rē, tēnī tī kā jīnī, tēnī jērēm lā tōng tō kō wā. Jērēm lā tōng tō tī, tā tō mā tēla jērēm kāntō jīn lā oma sō bā wā xio sā wā tā mā sō bā xio sī jī tē, tā pā tōng bā lā jāng yā kā, tōng tā rē wā. Ngā tsō jērēm gōng gō na tāng bō pā tōng bā lā jāng gō rē wā. Tōng bā lā jāng sī jī tē lā, tā ngā tsō tē tā wā jī yā na, kāmbā ndā tsō tāna tī yolōng tē tsāma tāmbō pā tōngbā lā gōm. Kā yē kā sē tī tōngbā lā gōm sē na, tē tātā ndē kāmbā tāng tī yor tē tsō pā mē pā tōwā yā wā nā yī. Tōwā nām kā lā yī wā nā yī sē pā yī nā tēndē sē gō rē sōng yō rē. Yī nā yāng tē tēndē yāng rī tē wā nē tā nē kā tōngbā lā gōm yā tē nā wā kā rāng yī. Nā wā kā rāng yī, tōng bā yīn bā, tē ngā wāng kāp sī lāb yī mā. Tī Tina ye hako katani teni tombala jaja. So baba shoda savadama so baba shoda home se do take chu tamche garanyin tombari save yorwa tonda. Tina ye hako katani teni la cargona goya yores.
So we can start in the visualization section that the Tibetan literally says the generation stage. It's on page 4. So we begin Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddho Hang. So this is the mantra which refines all into emptiness. So let's talk about what we mean by that. Let's take our surroundings in this building. So some people say that when we do this mantra, we should, slowly dissolve our surrounds, slowly dissolve this building into like finer and finer particles until like they kind of merge into space. And that's fine. But when we say meditating upon emptiness, we're talking about recognizing that the nature of all phenomena or all appearances is emptiness. We talked about that during the empowerment this morning, right? So it's understanding that nature to be so. So we say Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddho Hang, recognizing that the nature of all phenomena is emptiness.
Then I can love your panayi. Zok tomba ni le zok. Zol tomba ni mayan, tomba ni le zogi mayan, so te ta chadere. Te ta te ha ko sana, tene toni le jang chokchondo. Le laos in the tomba lola shaya yo jonda yonga yorwa.
For example, in the Heart Sutra, it says, emptiness, a form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is none other than emptiness, emptiness is none other than form. And if we understand that truly, then we're really ready to meditate upon emptiness. Emptiness is always at hand.
Teni tanan kong de la gom sa ka mangye te tangbo toni re, teni nyingye re la yinba. Nga tso sa nga ke nyingma ke lo la, tengen zeng namba som la ke yore.
Yes.
Tengen zeng namba som te tangbo te le tebye ni ki tengen zeng se. Tebye ni ki tengen zeng se na, ta tomba ni ke tong ti teng na nyambar ya ya te tebye ni ki tengen zeng se ke yore. Nipa te la kunda nangwa tengen zeng se. Kunda nangwa tengen zeng se la, ta ngarang ke sem gyu le tso, sem jie ye la nyingye ke, soga je tso. Ngarang ke sem le tso. Jebe tabhi si je te. Nyingye soga je ki so na, teni te la kunda nangwa tengen zeng se ke yore. Teni samba te la gyu yi tengen zeng se. Gyu yi tengen zeng, ta la ke saung. Ta hong rawa ta la ke saung kare na, ta te la tine teni la je go yore ba. O ti tengen zeng namba sum te, tengen zeng namba sum te, jeram kanda je go na, ti mang je te go yore se.
We derive from this that the foundation of meditating upon the deity is emptiness. So then from that emptiness, then we bring in, then comes the compassion. So in the Nyingma tradition, this is described as the 3 samadhis of generation stage. So the first samadhi is called the samadhi of suchness. What is the meaning of the samadhi of suchness? It is emptiness. And then upon that basis, the samadhi of suchness, then there's the next samadhi, which is the all-illuminating samadhi. And that is where the mind turns toward compassion for sentient beings. It's a method by which we give rise to compassion for sentient beings in our mind, and that is what is meant by the all-illuminating samadhi. Then the third samadhi is the causal samadhi. It refers to the seed or the seed syllable of the deity. So it can be the Hung syllable or whatever seed is the particular seed syllable of the deity. So these are the 3 types of samadhi of the generation stage.
Pena jang la chik lan do jing drago na rwa. La do jing drago na tangbo mang yi jang te yogo rwa. Te gini ji tengan zin ra ore. Yena jang yo ba pen yo mare, remo onre chok chok pe jambo zo gorwa. Te kondo na wa tengan zin re. Teni te gana ta remo onre la tre yo rwa, te joy tengan zin. Ta te ti chawo kap so yang. Ta chama yo de pan ra wa ji yong go re da. Toni da ning ji song don jok de ba ke chonnan de ngani lai ko sar de wa. Te cha sang nyam de ta dong yo de wa ji. Pe na nga so jang la mo tri chawo kap so yin na yang jang yang yo re. Sek pan jam bo te yang yo re. Te lai ko tri ya ba te yo re chama yo re wa. Te ga na yi sen me pa se la ji gom thum te ta te ngene la yi shi pa sen. Ta che dan din ba te cha yo re song yo re.
Let's take the example of doing a drawing of the deity, or let's say a painting of the deity. So you need to start with a proper clean canvas, and that needs to be blank. So that's like the samadhi of suchness. Then it needs to be like ready to paint on, and there might be some sort of like preparations there. And that's like the all-illuminating samadhi. And then you start with maybe an outline, and that's like the causal samadhi. And then once those are complete, then you can go into the whole detail of the whole form of the deity. But even though once that painting is finished, you have a full, complete form of the deity, you still have that background of emptiness, that preparation, and that outline. So all of that is still there. And if you build your generation stage from these three samadhis, then you're truly meditating upon the deity of timeless knowing.
Jerem Gonzala, Tambo Tamabak Nawa, Natsu Tamabak Nawa, the Ransala Pamatana, Tomba Laha Maona, then it Jerem Goya, younger Yomaris. Tatati Gombo Lotu is so. Kan la tongba ni rongwa te la jiang rongwa yin si. Kan la tong ni mrongna te la jiang rong manjor sin. Tata nga su nyamle se la gom ne chek teni trupta trumdre thongya yo jo te. Chu tam chek rang yin tongba yin pe jum sin la tene. Chongo yo re sa. Chu tam chek rang yin tongba ni ma yin na. Kar se ma yin na nga su nyamle se pinto kare yo re. Chirang na wanda su denpa te lan jo tanya yo marwa. Tamapa naona jawataya mena demba yena teni nyamne sena yang pinto dan tunde kanyang jungya yonga yo marwa.
We need to transform our ordinary way of seeing things in order to truly practice the generation stage. So if we don't purify our ordinary perception, we won't really be entering the generation stage. So Nagarjuna, so Nagarjuna said roughly, emptiness is the potentiality of everything. So anything kind of is possible, or anything is suitable, anything is applicable from emptiness. But if you have not, if you are not within emptiness, nothing is suitable, something like that. So if we want to meditate upon the deity and we want to engage in a sadhana like this one, first, we must dwell within the recognition that the nature of all phenomena is emptiness. Otherwise, if we're just continuing on our ordinary way, the practice will not benefit us. We will still retain our old perception of things being real. So we must first purify our ordinary perception in order for the practice to bring benefit.
Ta tambo te yin ji tengen zen ti kun de na wa tengen zen ni to ni ta nin je ke lo te ta wa ke ta wa ta ta wa ke cho wa ta ngaran la yo na te ni te san je ke kompang to ya ke ju mo ma te Garsi chirang ka tong ni ka tong yapo ha ko yo nyingje me na ganya pinto yo maris. Yang chirang la nyingje jimbo yo pe nyingje choa hyok jimbo yo tong ba ni ko la ha mo de ganya pinto yo maris. Ti ni ha ko go res. De song yo re. Nyingje tang zha tong ba ni ta wa ti ne lam cho ni ba ma yin de. Ga de nyingje ba hi go na yang jigden de drowa yu tam jie si ta ti tong da de. Toni jikpo ka pin marisa sanje kompa top marisa. Nyingje jikpo la de na sanje kompa top mare. De ni cha jirang ka ha go go yo re. De ni cha song de yo na. De ni ta nang ba ka ta ma no wa de mo ma ri de yo re sa.
The first two samadhis we just spoke about, the samadhi of suchness and the all-illuminating samadhi, bring about the mind in which emptiness and compassion are unified. If you have this view, if you have this feeling, then you truly possess the cause to reach the level of Buddhahood. If, however, you think, no, I understand emptiness, but you have no compassion, it's really not beneficial. On the other hand, if you say, oh, I have so much compassion, I really feel for everyone, but it's reified and you don't understand emptiness, this is also not beneficial. So you really must have both. You really must have the union of emptiness and compassion. So there's a quotation like the supreme path, if the supreme path of emptiness and compassion is not there, something like that, then the yang chersuna lam chok. Let's worry that happened. He says, forget it, I don't need it. But it was something like you just traverse the worldly way or something like that. If you can't reach where we're trying to go with just compassion or with just emptiness. You need both emptiness and compassion to have the unmistaken Buddhist view.
Tata kato sanje ke komba toya tende yongo yom teni jibol ta ya jibol teni yongo mare sa ga hyokwa na yin sa ga hyokwa sa la hyokwa ni go do.
So when I'm saying if you just understand emptiness or you just understand compassion, it won't be beneficial. What I'm not saying is it's not at all beneficial. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it will not get you to the level of Buddhahood. So if you have compassion and you don't understand the meaning of emptiness, that's okay. Slowly but surely, if keeping on this feeling of compassion might lead you to the meaning of emptiness eventually. So it's possible to traverse the bhumis in this way, but it won't directly get you there at this moment if it is not unified with emptiness. So solely understanding emptiness or solely understanding compassion is not going to allow you to traverse the levels of the path. So we can turn to our text, and the first 3 lines: all phenomena are pure by nature, I am pure by nature. From the state of the great emptiness of all subject-object phenomena arises great compassion, the cause of all phenomena. this essence of bodhicitta, one's self-cognizing awareness becomes a dark blue hong. This is describing these 3 samadhis that we just talked about.
Oh yeah, the genie the Tadi Duptab Dupa de la Lausen. Yige Yam Ram Pam Lamsen. Yonganga Soundwa. Tambo Yige J song. When is in Japan Rosena Rabagin the Taran, Yore. Than the Tambo Yige J song. Take carriers in Ten Nanga Tomba. Te nana when is the nati the Nanga Tomba tela yang Yepang Kado Yorida. Chumjong Drosum Rawaji. Pamon Institute Chumjong Drosum Zawan Trawan Turdo Sojin, Denka Chewa Jindo Timbas in the Jayua. Te na ye ha jang ja chewa ya che hin yangba. Nanga. Te nana when is in a Toncha Sama Dinan Sude Baji. Then the Chimjong is and Nanga Tomba data which is on board.
So the next is A, Yam, Ram, Bam, Lam. These are the seeds syllables of the 5 elements. So in the more extensive sadhana, it breaks these down more extensively. So we can begin with the A syllable. This is the symbol of the empty space. But in this case, it has a color and it has a shape, and it is the Dharma source. So like pyramidal, like a 3-dimensional upside-down triangle, and it's extremely huge, in which everything can be contained. So in the Varahi practice, it describes like the Dharma source comes down to a fine point, and it extends outward into a very wide V. So it's like that. It's a Dharma source, a chujung, but it's very big, very extensive.
Yam suggestion. Yam the longer new body, longer summary. Yam the name unit, longer jinkosa. Longer jinkotella, yep tell a jankari. Mario Kado tell a jankari. Yep tell a jadam doja jadam. Be Matotatan Dictin Chapo Capsa, the Sacolate, the Kaulatin, Panangal de Yotina, you know, I said it. Yamle Longichinko, Janko Jadam.
Then the Yam syllable is the seed syllable of wind or air. Let's say air, the air element. And the shape is a crossed vajra, and the color is green. So the keki sungba karinang shinre. Okay. Yeah, so it's like a really big green crossed vajra in the hovering in midair.
Then it is you get ram the may, ram the may jingo. Younger may jingo the kato the marpor, yep the truck some redo. Longer jingo gangdana. Remind the outside.
Okay, so then there's Ram, which is the seed syllable of fire. It is red, and it is triangular. And so these are getting stacked. So there's the Dharma source, and then the crossed vajra, and then the triangle.
That day you get pam, said the younger. Pam the name Jonathan, Choy jingo, they choy jingo. Choy jingo, yep the dumbore. Go. Kado the cardboard. There, the gangas.
Next comes Bam, which is the seed syllable of water, and it is a circle that is white. So then that's the next one that comes in the stack.
They you get lam, said you long. They sack sack jingo there, yep the triviji. Kado the serpos. They understand that I remember here. Remember in the yard. 지금말을 내봐. 근데 제 상고요. 대가 탐제다. 야 첨보 상고요.
Then comes Lam, which is the seed syllable of earth. It is a yellow square or rectangle. So we think of these as being kind of stacked and being huge in scale.
다 뒤간테는 어떻게 다다 신제 그 진쿠 라공사 그 진쿠라고데 된 주된지 요래. 산점 주된. 다 대공고요. 대공발라 당보 얘기 좀 세와데 내전에더니 산초 진분 주된 산점 주된. 대양제 담말 바게더니 요를 주야바 마인바 아데카데가랑 예인바 아데카데가랑 예 되니 도르제 팔랑레 트바게더니 산촌 주디 쳔보진 오당 오즈베 소업준 초대와 된데 제 공부도와
The mandala in which we visualize the deity is a stupa of enlightenment. So first we visualize the syllable drum, and that syllable becomes a stupa of enlightenment, but it's not like a stupa that's made by an ordinary person. It's a stupa that kind of magically occurs from the Sanskrit vowels and consonants. So it's like nature is the Sanskrit vowels and consonants, and it is made of diamonds and radiating light.
다데다가 주딘 검사도 단 주딘 그 범파요라 범도 나한테는 세지 도제 자람사 도제 자람 때야 매 차차 초대 진짜 하고서 나초티 로그인인데 또 차차차차 매 초고도와 대나 예서 되니까 다다데 세지 도제 자람게 삼고도사.
So then the vase, the stupa has it's called the vase. It's like the round portion of the stupa. Within that round belly of the stupa, there's a golden crossed vajra that is like made of sparks. It's hot. It's like sparking.
다티 도제 자람 그 때와데 돈보르와 고고르와 때와데 동바리 난 동바리 가우카자와스나 다 된데스나 때와데 동바리도 요래 대나로다나 녀마단 다와게 딘토라더니 셰지도르지 야랑데와 된데스나 요 바지 상고래.
In the center of this golden crossed vajra, so you know the vajra has that kind of spherical center. That spherical center is empty like an amulet. And it inside of it is a crystal vajra. So that word crystal is missing from this translation. So it says, there's a seed of lotus, this is page 5, 3 lines up. There is a seed of lotus, moon disk, and sun disk. Upon this is a 5-pronged vajra. It should say, upon this is a 5-pronged crystal vajra, radiating light.
다 셰지도지 그 때와들라 이게 홍 되나 제요래.
And then upon this is the hung syllable.
대완데려디 노도데 쳔보려 대와라 이게 홍.
This is the center, but it's huge, right? Yeah.
대와세나티 나로래 낭동바래 봐. 너 낭동바래.
When we say its center, we mean the inside of the sphere, the center.
다티 문에서는 나랑게 샘지라기 나랑게 샘 그남 남바데데 홍라 샤데와 데니 티지니 티 홍데 nenjone 다 힌게 나도 다다 picture 요와 디나 힌게 데네 공고 요래 데나 힌게 디나 힌 고한 바캅서 티 힌게 다 나랑 다니 스메 박 데이터지 차데 요래
Thank you. And this hung is the nature of my mind. That's what you think. This hung is the nature of my mind. And then the way this hung appears transforms to appear like the deity. So it transforms into Manjushu Yamantaka. And we are inseparable from the appearance of the deity.
Daki isine da lar gong bakapso 다 데이터베티 나랑가 셈나 데이터베티 사데나 되게 요래 되니 다당 예니세나 그 콜라상 땅고 말에 나랑가 셈나 데이터베티 곰데베 값서 데가 티가랑 다기 차데 요래 데 가르이세나 라데 데이터 넘버 향도도 나랑가 셈나 샤게 요래와 데인데 다한데 다기 메 콜라 가야 상고 요 말에 데이터 나랑 셈나 샤데와 짬진 되게 요래
When we talk about this self-visualization, we mean that the deity is inseparable from my mind. The deity is inseparable from your mind. So we don't need to think in terms of I'm the deity and others are like this self and other kind of framework. We can simply think of my mind being the deity, that's sufficient. Because if you think about it, where does the appearance of the deity occur? It occurs in your mind. So you don't have to think about self-visualization being, I am this, myself is a deity, then there's others who are the deities. It can just be, I am the deity.
다다다 홍지 요래봐 나저 홍지 공요와 때 다른人바 같이 주고도다 홍텔에 오선춘에와 대도 가래 연구도 오선다 현재게 딘트서 연구요 마해 랑고 되니 님마 다와 야적 야바케티 딘트서 럼바긴 살 되니 딘트서 산 곰차디 되게 딘트서 그 토라 양 얘기 홍테나 직삼 홍테나도 양 nenjone kallen jondo ko yore namja je dorje che ko pachela dorje go che go pachela jon dorje che go pachela yang te wala hong yo pache dende che samram ba yende kale tin mangbo jundo go do.
So we've gotten a tiny bit out of order here. So according to the text, this hung in its hub is a hung whose radiating light becomes a male and female yama. So then what happens is we have the seat upon which the deity resides. So there's the water buffalo, bull, and then come the seats of lotus, moon, and sun. And then upon that is a hong, a blue hong syllable. And that transforms into a meteorite 9-pointed vajra. Segupa. Again, this 9-pointed is omitted, so it should be a meteorite. You don't have to have iron because that's redundant. A meteorite 9-pointed vajra is how it should be. And in its hub is a hung syllable, dark blue hung.
The Tony says to the Terry. Tendrojik Samgore, Tikaps. That's the Rimba in the Kali, Kali Samgo, Dongarang, Chemna Yami Senator Kari, Rimba in the Sun. There's a law, young Gomja, there's a law Gomja, Tenders, in Rogudara.
And then from this dark blue hung, rays of light emanate, accomplishing the two benefits. So this says benefiting oneself and others, and I would say accomplishing the two benefits, and here's why. So what are the two benefits? So the first time light emanates, it is an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas residing in the 10 directions. Upon receiving that offering, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions rain down light, and that returns into that blue home. Then light rays emanate again, and this time these light rays radiate outward toward all sentient beings, purifying their obscurations. So these are the two benefits. So it's not really self and other, it's just two benefits. Rinpoche says, this is a lot. When you actually practice it, you can go nice and slow. You can read it a little bit, and then think about it, and visualize it, and then read a little bit more, and then visualize.
That's same thing, yeah, Sanjay and Chupa person, you test a lower. You know, same thing, Tibetan country, country Jango, Sena, Penata, Mumpala. Mumbate, your Pocabs, and Yamati Shana, come Mumbate, Sangdorva, and Nangarvati. They 9 years in the same thing, Mumba 9 years in the Redona. Then it was at the former, that the Mumba 9 years about the sun at Samatic Nawagaran, he chose some, but that 9 years was in some Choyo Sari.
I think it's easy to understand what we mean by light makes offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but what do we mean by light purifies the obscurations of living beings? So we can think of it like a very dark place in which the sun suddenly shines and it dispels all of the darkness. So similarly, we can think of the darkness of all living beings, and then this light strikes the living being, dispelling all of that darkness and like radiating them, bathing them in light. That's probably fine.
Teniti Gini Om Adrotega Yamantaka Hong Pay City Nate Drate. Teta Drati Swala, some Te Drata Swata Yam to Tenitata Hong Yek. Nam Jaji Doji Tego Pachite Hoptical and Angel. That Indian Josmari, Jambar Hinji, Ranin Jambar Hinji, he got on Zayan Tenat, Tamambo Labdo. That Doji Hong in Angel. Then Eugene Road on Adrotega Yameta home pays, think not the Sonata. The Angel, Hinji Chaswari.
So we're on page 6, 2 lines in, then comes the mantra, Om Akro Teka Yamantaka Hung Pet. So this is the mantra, and when this sound of the mantra is uttered, it catalyzes this transformation of the 9-pronged Vajra into Yamantaka. So the light then returns to the 9-pronged Vajra, and the hung, dark blue hung in its center, and the mantra catalyzes it to transform into Yamantaka.
That teacups Yamantaka, the Naran Yamantaka Chade Yoruba. It doesn't home the Naranga Semimba. That Naran Tanis and Yamantaka, that any Mambo Lando, Yamantaka Kanda Yudini, Mambo Lando, Tema Lo Yan Chosari. Then Naranzo Tasa Paya Yoruba, Picturian Yoruba. Oh, Tendacity. That Yamantaka and a Kanda Yote Lago in the Mambote.
So I am Yamantaka. So we talked about the Hung syllable being the nature of my mind, of your mind, of our mind. So then this Hung transforms means I am now transformed into Yamantaka. So then there's a lot of description of how Yamantaka is, what he looks like, what his body is, all of these things. So you can just read it, and we also have the picture to look at.
Tene ngaran Yamantaka tatsan je san sao kapso. Tene jitsuk tene yang. Jitsuk to yehi je sa chong na bu cho ya jin do jin cho ye de jin. Nam ja je ra ta ti jitsuk tene sa chong yo wa. Ti ko ter sa chong ko te chi.
Dema dumbala.
Ta ma lo yan chok sa chok ma chi lo shot.
Okay.
Chatsan lo shot.
Okay. So after the mantra, I'll just read it, starting on page 6, partway down. I become Manjushri Yamantaka with a dark blue body and main face. I would say with a dark blue body, and the central face is dark blue. My right face is white, my left is red, and my 9 eyes are red, round, and wide open. Black snakes adorn my ears, and my noses point upward with wrathful grimaces. I may be like scrunched up, something like that. Okay. I don't think a nose can grimace, so maybe like scrunched up or something. My mouths are open, tongues curled, my 12 fangs are bared, and I roar with the sound, Arali. My hair, eyebrows, and beard are orange and blaze with fire. In my 3 right hands I hold a wheel, a sword, and a vajra. In my left 3 hands I hold an iron hook, a wooden pestle, and then make the threatening mudra, blazing with fire. So it's like that. Having 4 legs, I stand, it's also, it's fine. Threatening, pointing mudra or something. Having 4 legs, I stand upright with the right legs bent and the left ones outstretched. My heads are adorned with crowns of 5 dry skulls, where the 5 classes of Harukas abide. That's fine. Above my head is a black wisdom Garuda with a wrathful expression, a vajra beak, and eyes made of sun and moon. Okay. Its horns are made of meteoric iron, and a jewel adorns the space between them.
Oh,
yeah. Its hair blazes with a khaki color. That's not a color. Khaki. Okay, let's say khaki. The iron claws of its arms and legs hold a black and white snake whose heads are bitten in its mouth. So the heads of the snakes are in the Garuda's mouth, Beating its wings that have razor blade feathers, they blaze with an apocalyptic fire. Each of my pores, so now we're back to the Yamantaka. Each of my pores are filled with black Garudas with fiery wings and vajras that emit sparks. I wear a necklace made of 21 skulls and a garland of 51 fresh blood-dripping heads that hang from the shoulders. On my upper torso, I wear an elephant hide. A human skin is tied around my waist, and my lower garment is a tiger skin. My hair is tied with white striped snakes. I wear yellow striped ones as bracelets, red striped ones as a belt, green striped ones as anklets, and black striped ones as a garland hanging over the shoulders. Human ash is smeared between my eyebrows and on my limbs. My cheeks and forehead are smeared with drops of human blood. My throat and chest are smeared with human fat. From the pores of my skin, emanated messengers are emitted, and I am surrounded by many millions of activity Yamantakas. I stand within a blazing mass of wisdom fire which is emanated from my own body.
배 직대인다나 되니 노바다니 그더니 직 가르스 거르지 당문에서는 코란 티캅스 히 맨라양 신지 라버요래 근데 그 뇌라고 지 정도가 또 첨보지 이제 디스파선로 왕죠 tum니 이제 정도가 되니 되게 생긴 땅지라 뺀 채와 뇌바 배 삼점에 잡았던 데서는 되니 대인 들었지도 다 산조선 바 망보 제거는 야배양 두주 것 야배양 것더니 다 야배양 잡고를 거 이제는 담봉원에서는 때 뇌되는 데 나오셔래 디나이 현재의 디나이 된 나오지 되니 대래장 또 채와지 라고 이제는 되니 코터르와 되니 대torne 되니 고 야라 망보 요르 대 담제 참아 왕도 되니 되니 현재 그 주의도 송도 관다 모양 양배 현재라 거르기는 가장 로주는 누가 따뜻인데 되니 담보 그 현재 경우 지진 그때 뇌디 차라 그런다.
So we have the picture, and up until now, basically everything we've described is in the picture, so you can look at the picture. This has some scary elements. Some things here are kind of scary. So why do we have such frightening things here? We can look back to the story of the origin story, really, of Yamantaka. So Yama, or Shin-je, the Lord of Death, originated as an actual demon. The Lord of Death was this really powerful demon in the world who was like the most powerful demon of the three realms of existence. And he was harming and hurting on an inconceivable scale so many living beings. And something had to be done, and it had to be made to stop. And the one who was going to stop it, who came forward to put an end to this reign of terror, was the Bodhisattva Manjushri. And the Bodhisattva Manjushri entered the scene in a wrathful form in order to tame this demon. And so in order to tame this demon who looked much like this, he became an even more powerful, even more terrifying form in order to vanquish this powerful demon. So this is like a repetition or a reiteration of the story we talked about yesterday.
예나야다 두초게 체제라고 요르와 디캅스티 야마텔라 코토 그 진짜라서 봐 코랑 진짜 데려와 이 다다 신제 그 르라양 두초게 체제라서 봐 요제데 되니 야마르 신제시 그 너초담제 되니 총동때 뉴몬바 내에서 다고근 총동 배나 도차 내에서 다고발라 디 마바그 양제된 도차 내에서 다고근 총동다 되니 란지그 골롱데 또목 다고근 총동다 다그 향다데 해당 다고근 총동다 대라서 뭐 드러그 인라지야도 좋더니 또목 다고근 총동라 말이다 대라서 밖에 너는 또 두게 진짜한테 좀 참아 되니 tukjuke yongdin reka chundonrawo tendeche jinji lamne. Tene nga so ta hinjiga kapso te tawasen ha koko yore. Hinjiga tukjuke yongdin te srola tene da tang ta ka goni nga cholan zhe se dewa na din dewa na. Tendeche.
So in the history, we heard that there were these 8 terrifying charnel grounds that this demon, the Lord of Death, was associated with. And we can see in Yamantaka, the conqueror of the Lord of Death, in his form the representations of these 8 charnel grounds. So in the form of Manjushri Yamantaka, you see the representations of the vanquishing of the demon and transforming the afflictions that the demon possessed into attributes. So, for example, the human hide, the human skin that Yamantaka wears, it represents the transformation of the affliction of desire. The elephant hide represents the transformation of the affliction of ignorance. The tiger skin hide represents the transformation of the affliction of anger. The snakes represent their own transformation and so forth. So each of the attributes, each of the ornaments of the deity has a specific quality that it represents.
Tani Mongol kan chengwa dale to so yin na yang ta Mongol chengwa ngap che tsak chi nga che yo ro song yo re te tam che na ta ta nga so ti nam to mambo de zi ke nam to mambo je te cham ma re yan de ten sen go che ne te tam che ne se ta ta pa kan song don ro se ne to so len de che ti na yi mambo yong go yo re.
For example, the long necklace of 51 freshly severed heads that Yamantaka wears represent the purified transformation of the 51 subsidiary mental states, which is a fancy way of saying all of the various thoughts that students on the path have. So it represents the purification of all of our thoughts. So in this way, we could go through each of the attributes of the deity and define what it represents.
Te ta wa ge yin ji ta gon sa wa ji su ta ga re yong go yo yang yin ji ge tu ga ta na yin ji ge go de yang de wo ge go re wa ja na yi dong ba re wa ta ti tu ga de ne ta nam ba na na rin do ba rang fu na na rin do ti to ka se jin ko lo zhe bi ba zhe bi ya lan ja ba se jin do ji ye ra de用波的下不多节这种现当节不是标记大胆的经济经把香港的人的送人者把啥得到上工的话。
So that's the outer form of the deity, and now we're going to enter the interior part. So again, this is a deity whose body is made of light. The body is like a rainbow. It is empty. And so then we go inside. This is the bottom of page 9. In my heart center, so now we're talking about the inside, the heart of the deity, is a golden wheel with 4 spokes, on each of which sits a golden Manjushri. Seated in the Vajra posture, they each hold a sword in their right hand and a scripture in their left. Peaceful and radiant, their hair is tied in top knots and they are adorned with silks and jewels.
다 디기진 콜로가 대화되나 가려 요새는 콜로 대화 빼마 다니 된라 remboje na zole zhen qiuding wo zhen chuo wa sa dan qiuding xin ji ge tu ga le yang qiuding yo le ba.
So they, facing inward, they perform the activities of protection. So then what is inside this wheel, this chakra at the heart center?
Center. Yeah.
In the hub of the wheel, so the center of the wheel, is a seat of lotus, a moon disk, and sun disk. Upon that is a stupa made of various jewels from which light rays radiate. So then again, inside the heart center, we once again have a stupa.
Okay. 다 디긴 qiuding de ge yang pen pen na lo de na.
Then that stupa also has the vase, the circular portion.
다 도je. serje doje. 다 zen ngama de serje doje yin ba. 다 de serje doje je. doje 다 ndo sen do re de wa je. 다 티 십찬도 산노 타는 티 야제랑알라 자와랭아 야가 마제랑알라 영알라 소파데 송요 요로. 이나 데이터 십차사 마토나 다 도제제 요바산. dorje je yo ba dorje de ke te wa la rewa ta ya dorje de ke te wa ta zen na yin yang dong ba rewa ta te yang dong ba ga kha ja ya wa na yin adika de kha ja adika de ga ran yi kha ja ya wa na yin ti na lo la ta ka re yong go yo se na ta den de gong go re den de ye ge drum je drum ga na lo la hong je teni hong de ge le ko na na la ma lo bu ta charang ge che me pa se go sa song job se go sa kar che sho de so hong ge le ko na la yo jo ta che sho de so teni hong ge ko pa na na ta ngarang ta yin ta che tang ga ma de so charang ge song job se go sa cha ma hong ge ko pa na na teni hong ge shap chu na da na charang ge song job se go sa ta Jose Panjo La Sopa Kara Songjo Segona. Tate Sama di Champion some data Gongo Dua.
So light rays radiate, and then so then in the stupa's bulbous, so whatever, the vase, the circular vase portion, we have a seat of lotus, moon, and sun, and then we have a golden 5-pronged vajra. So if you want to go into detail, the upper 5 prongs contain the 5 Buddhas, the Gyalwa Ritnga, the 5 family Buddhas, and the bottom portion contain the 5 female counterparts. But you don't have to, it's already a lot. So it's just a golden 5-pronged vajra. And in, again, the center, the hollow center, the hub of this 5-pronged vajra, it's empty, like an amulet. And inside, we have, it's empty like an amulet, like its nature is a Sanskrit vowels and consonants, Ali Kali. And then inside we have like this picture. So we have a drum syllable, and in the above the drum, this part, there is a hung. And inside that hung is where you put those to be protected. So in the ha part of the hung, this belly part here, we visualize the, oh wow, that's really nice that you're doing that on the Zoom. We put the lamas and the, masters that you want to protect. And then in this part of the hung, we put your close connections, yourself, your loved ones. And then in the shapkyu, the very bottom of the hung, we put like all of our material possessions, our wealth, our land, our home, things that we want to protect in there.
The Karsana de Tawjiri Sina Ta Di Nyamlin de Song Do Se Sum Sin Korang Lekan Rao Zotia Teri Dua Korang Chileg Then the ta to go and the Pacha Jackson then Teds and Karchimbo Mena Tang Na Hamu Ina and the Tawa to go Yosare. Tendesene check no batani zokin zumi no batani mambo parts no batani sen tendesene ta ma tang te la so pa go ni checks yang zo me ba ga to tang do ba la so ba go ni tendesene mambo yong go yosare tende ga kap so de ta nyam lin de ga chen bon do cha de yosare te se du This and not that is soon about the Sohachang, some more interesting Yobare. In a tata Nasola, they zankete the Hachang Sua, some Goya the Minayang. Make one that I was in a carpinto Yorisena. Narankan Yane component of Yorba. te mukban de ta pe hip tin chaw mangbo do wa ngarang ke nyamne te timbo raw ma chana de ta mukba de yong ma wa mukban de la jang ro de mukban de la jang ro de ne ngarang ke che sem ke te sem te jongdan ro temne yema de ni gom jaya la ping yore shene gom ya la ping yore te de ni jeram se ya la yang ping yore sem te ngarang rawang yo pa ji cha to yore wa 다다 가서 라왕 요 말에 나랑스 셈틱 대사를 가실 내고서는 내로스 좀도 와. 콜 남장 편에죠. 만에죠 대선 론돈 산장은 나랑 대사를 제 gond아오 잡는 대요 싸나야. 콘 로차도 와. 세. 근데 차대요. 다다. 내 담을 봤어야 되는 또 때 라왕스는 대야 간다 세상나 시토야 된다 핀토 용요.
So that's quite an elaborate visualization. Why? So, as we said before, the three main enlightened activities associated with Yamantaka are protecting, repelling, and slaying. And though these might not be quite as pertinent in our present day, it's probable that back in the times where these mantric practices were in full swing, they really were essential. So there was a lot of attacks or negativity or harm caused by both form and formless beings. So in terms of the beings with form, like enemy factions, warfare, fighting, onslaughts, genuine actual bodily harm. And then in terms of formless beings, demonic influences, black magic, genuine, messing on in the formless way. And so this kind of practice was really important to protect oneself and one's kind of situation from such attacks. And even though that might not be the case today in quite the same way, it still holds a lot of benefit for us. So what benefit does it hold? Meditating in such a detailed way is a very stabilizing force for our mind. So if we do not have a stable mind, we cannot engage with such a detailed visualization. It simply won't happen. So going slowly, step by step, can help us to arrive at such a stable mental state. So it can aid our shamatha, our calm abiding. It can aid our generation stage practice. In essence, it can give us some autonomy, some kind of control over our own mind. So right now, we really don't have control over our mind. Our mind goes all over the map. Sometimes we have a thought, okay, now I'm going to go meditate, and even that just flies out the window. So we can be very benefited by stabilizing.
신제 공부 값을 지랑게 주대에 양 삼마텀나 되거래. 다 신제를 못 봤대. 신제 공도 산정진 자로도 졸라 못 봤대. 다 대공자들 다 신제가 토가 걸로 공고로 와. 대 값을 신제에 양파 지랑 쪽 삼마텀나 되거래. 신제가 토가긴 주대에 못 봤대. 그러마 인데 파트레스 양네. Tene toka kan chutin de sansa jitu yang chutin nalo la mambo do remba yin de ti nalo la pando ne tene te ke serje dorje tang tene te dorje ke te wa ga drum tang te nang ga hong tang te remba yin de so la pa me kwa te tende se pa remba yin de pa nang lang ro kap se cha chang me kwa se ma tham na ya 저거 요래.
So we have the the elements, and then we have the stupa, and then that within the stupa, then we have Yamantaka. Once we get to Yamantaka, if we no longer hold that outer stupa in our mind quite as firmly, that's okay. So then we just focus on Yamantaka. And we do, we go through really, what does Yamantaka look like? What are the colors? What are the ornaments? What are the attributes? And we really have that. Then we go into Yamantaka's heart center. And once we go into the heart center, if we don't hold on to the outer form of Yamantaka quite as firmly, that's okay. We get to the heart center, we have again a stupa. Then we go inside the stupa, and we have the golden vajra. And once we get to the golden vajra, if we don't hold on to that stupa, that's okay. And inside that golden vajra, there's a drum. And inside the drum, there's the hung. And at that point, if we don't hold on to the golden vajra, we just go step by step. And if we go slowly inward like that, that's okay.
Tene tata kashi ke tes ke do hong ke ti shapyo nan tana ko da no je tam je sawa jo si de ta te na na zambul le ke sa ko la do do tan ma ya ji do wa te ngal me sa ke me pa si go sa me na tende se ne zambul le sabta te tende se ne de ke yo ma re te kare de se na tata ngaran so ke ti Mekpa Latine, Le Druviate, Terasa Chichang on Patenders and Chicks Yalak drop to you, Mary. Mekpa Hepting Tower. Nematani, Le Yakan drop a capsule, Ti Mingat and Nenga Yore. Mekpa Swan and Sonjam Zankatani, Le Yakan and Drogo Mari Song Yore. Tina Anthony, Maranga Sonjo system. Suyina te teni main tatati maye tambu na lokor de wasendo te so shipja teni lapa na yi sen me pa sen teni sala nyan te nyimba datum ngone dane tina yi ti nupa ti yong go yore to zon zon bu len cha chang ro san da nga zo nam ju sem ji se pa na yi se ya yong man da la
However, we're not meant to invent our own version. So, for example, in the shapkyu, in the bottom vowel of the hung syllable, the bottom kruk, some people say, it says to put your wealth, your possessions, your home. It says even your retinue. Some people say, so I'll just put the whole world. I'll put the whole world in the shapkyu, in the vowel, in the kruk of the hung. But that's not what it actually says. So we should stick to what it actually says in the visualization. It's very detailed. It's very explanatory. And each facet of the detail has its own pith instruction, its own key point. So it's not that we just do it willy-nilly, even though I'm saying things can sort of become less we can hold less firmly as we go in. I'm not saying you just make it up. So we should go through the detail as it's explained in the text, because that is the way that we encounter the power of the practice.
Oh, yeah, that is the genie. Teni young rang took a hong le.
Yes.
That took up Japan and hong le. Yang Hong Tang Johnny Yone. Teni Hong Le Poju Jole Moju and Soma Poju Moju. Ta Yon to Teni Tama, Yana the Lon, and the Sumas and the Sung Job said Depa. Your son at the Sigureds and Yore. Yanandela Rang took a Hong Le, Song would throw Tomo, ye want to Yana the Jo Song Kang. Song the Teni ta kokan shooting srolla, shooting ta tangbo te srolla. Teni Songko Rampa Chukson Yongo Yore. Songko Rampa Chukson, that dinner the main something that was. Songko Rampa Chukson. That Songko Rede La the cook some you can do Rede Yore Tambo. That Juni La, that Juni. Hong Om Jam She Ah. Tele Tini Dorje, Kolo, Ramboche, Pema, Diadam, the Kadoyan Car Ser, Mo Car Ser, Marjang, Tendeko Kanjambata. Donna Data Kanjamba took some tasserol. Chickagilla, chickagilla, chick. That ended you sang or it.
So then on page 11, 3 lines up from the bottom, then it says, from the Hong in my heart center. So we've gone through that whole visualization, and then we start, performing the enlightened activity. So from the Hong in my heart center, now this again is a really concise text, so it's just a Hong here, but in the more extensive text, it's a Hong and a Jo. But here it's a Hong syllable, emanates wrathful male and female protectors on my left and right sides. So then they emanate and then they face inward, forming a protective sphere. And then there's some smaller print, don't know why it's small, it's also equally important. Then there's a around the stupa, there forms 13 successive spheres of protection, so 13 layers deep. And each layer has its own name, its own function. And if you look starting on the bottom of page 11, then up through page 12, you'll see the numbers, and that correspond to the layers of protection.
Okay, that is Ginny. Tigini, that Jindin Latoyore. Tata Natsoko Mipa said they were Tetsola Natsoko Gom de Pala. Tamsepala and Segoyore, and Gom de Palareva. Naranzo was same like Shadeva. Then tell a tanguni. Data with any Jambar Hinji, he Tsonko, Yeshipala, that's a Dindin. Jindin, Tata Naranzo Mipa said they were the Gangla Timne. Chula Chuyabana, you Timne. The Nitangune Janega Naranzo Mipa said that the Hinji Tsonko, Jingo, Songo to Tangune Janega, the Tena Yope, Hinji Tsonko, Songo, and Jorsonsa. Then the one, Java only.
Okay. So then comes the invitation. So so this whole visualization is, we could call it the visualization for meditating upon the deity, something like that. Another way of saying it is the deity of Samaya, the Damsikila. And then comes the invitation where we invite the Yeshela, we invite the deity of timeless knowing to merge inseparably with us. So we've become the deity, and then we invite the deity of timeless knowing to come and to merge into us like water being poured into water. Merge inseparably. And the wisdom, the deity of timeless knowing that is invited looks exactly the same, with the same form, the same attributes, the same everything.
Tani tiga jini zahong pango se ta ni se me pa tembarwa. Ko kan so le tembe ni se me pa yours. Tani tinga Yamantaka Retreat sama tita lense ne ta tina ki timbar yo se ta ni se me pa chane te timbo de se yore. The Adipo this house in the Sansa Wakatundarewa. Adipo was and Tangunes and a Sanki and Sayos and Tatangaso Tamarpana Yimari. Yina that Sate Dan Jicting de Ganatani La Yananda, Lo Yananda, To, Top, Tang, Nuba, Wang, Sonam Chembo, Suyuna, the great Tamjekani, Jamba Hindi Hila. Gubagonias Sansagayo Sambasena, Tendesena Chore, Ying Sansagayo, Jamba Hinji, Cocheva Yonde, Tujuga Yonde, the Sone, and Nicosa Corans of the Atepo, Sansagayo Sana Chore. They Minega, Maranga Tukane, was it true? Was it Telete, Chupel and Lamu Mambochi Jong? The two can jamba hinge here the Nicosansa, Atepo Hoza. Then it tatita horse, the young, the Soranga took all the two teams. Should do. Then this is a son.
So on page 13, 3 lines up, we have Za Hong Bam Ho, and those are the syllables of merging inseparably. And then we have request them to remain with Samaya Tikta Len. So that is, may you remain stably and firmly there. And then we pay homage with Ati Puho, Prati Tsaho. So let's talk about the paying homage. It's not an ordinary homage where you're an ordinary person paying homage to some other exalted, high status entity, but rather it's recognizing the inherent qualities, the power, the might, the ability to perform enlightened activity with respect. So it is a form of respect. It is a form of showing deference to the enlightened qualities possessed by the deity. So that's one way to think about the homage. Another way to think about the homage is, so that's just like one deity's respect. It's not like one deity's respect for another. It's yourself as a deity paying respect to the qualities of the deity, if that makes sense. That's one way of looking at the homage. Another way of looking at the homage is that you're the deity, and then from your heart center emanate offering goddesses, and they pay homage to the deity. That's the Atipuho. And then the deity receives that praise and makes praise back to you, and that's a Pratitsaho. That's also fine.
Chupa da Gana is angry. Ranga toka le trupe, Ladan Lamo to Toka Hinjela, Hinja Tongola and the Chupasi. The Nitijin, two party Yongonoa, they are Tina in Chupa and the two party so. The Rang le trupe, Ladan Lamo to Toka Sancho Pasi, Siriopana Hinji.
And then on page 14, there's the offerings and then the praises. We can think of those in just the same way that from our heart center emanate offering gods and goddesses, or gods and goddesses which make the offerings and which praise as well, offer their praise.
Oh yeah, that Gini Nimba Davu Capsitani Mipa Kandasi Guati Colari, that is an after Tanan Sam Yarawa. Nazo da Parsen say yo Marita Chutu Yepala Legundo. Then the Da Trevaka Hedan, the Trevatili Siri, the Nissan in Yamis Capsia, Tesama, Nimba Lopu Capsiti, Mipasitanti, Lapia Sena Chosari.
So after the praise comes the visualization for the mantra repetition, but we're going to stop here. It's already 4 and we haven't had a break. And we have more time. So we're going to go further into the text, further into the weekend. But for today, we can stop there and take any questions, if anyone has any questions.
Tata lab debate to support each Hamasona, Travasi Gore. 대 참아게 하고 거를 가래 돈다 간절 리도.
And by questions, we mean anything that we covered today that might not be clear and that would be helpful for everyone to understand.
Oh, I'm going to give you a mic. So that the Zoom folks can hear.
They can't see you, it's okay.
Good. Okay. Page 12. Second line down. It says 3, 4, 5. 5 is for lotuses and green double vajras. Is that layer 6? The green double vajras?
Ah, you have caught the omission of number 6.
저는 일라도.
Nato angrang dru me ba. Dene ngapa di marpo di pema marpo. Dene jangwe gorkang di drukpa ribes. Jangwe gorkang mane di green double vajras.
다때 간데 나땡이 다다 디면 데리 담보텔라 거강 담보테 세르지 가고 갑죠지 거강제 요래 데니 티지라 자와 랭아그랑이 자와 랭가 나그랑이 거강아 요래 티지라 데니 라데가 거강제 요래
Raji.
티지라 자와 영아그랑이 사천면은 용왕아 거강제 요래 데니 거강 타마데데리 랑아당 아데가든 정와 나가 드라이 거강지 요래 던데스데 거강 쭉선 연거 요래.
Okay. So instead of going number by number here in the text, let's do a little bit of a broader sweep. So the 13 layered protection sphere is basically, the first is this golden kind of amulet of protection. Then we have the 5 layers, which are comprised of the 5 Buddha families, the nature of the 5 Buddha families. Then there's this protective layer that is the realtree, the fence, the Vajra fence. Swords.
Yeah.
Swords. Then there's the 5 layers, which are the 5 female Buddhas, the pure aspects of the 5 elements. So, Sachi, the earth, water, fire, air, space. Then there's a layer that's the nature of mantra, the Sanskrit vowels and consonants. Does that make sense?
It makes more sense.
Adoteka and the Sanskrit vowel consonants, the sound field.
Sound field, yeah.
That's 13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I was wondering, on the bottom of page 12, it says, in English translation, kill all enemies and obstructors. And I was wondering if that's the best English translation for me or us to be thinking when, in this mantra, if there's a different way of putting it that we should, or is this accurately how I should think of this or visualize this during this practice?
Sound field, the drug.
Drage
kamche sus drabode.
대다우다 현황 차오대 양고가 요래.
Okay.
삼산에 때 가르센스나 노바스못 저버때서 현황라고 고고 요래.
Masa.
소스제 때문에서는 가르세 세게 요나 양 때가서 타마와게 세게 봐나 이 말에 그 레벨에 됐어 주들이. 답을 나나 봐.
Yeah, that's accurate. So we need that kind of terrifying utterance. So yes, it really does say kill all enemies and obstructors. It's because sometimes to vanquish a truly harmful force, you need to be terrifying. You need to be terrifying to vanquish a force. It's not because we're angry. So when we say kill, we're not saying kill from an ordinary perspective. We're saying pierce through to the path of liberation, bring them to the path of liberation.
Thank you. I just have a question on the, can you elaborate more the importance of the horns?
Of the what?
The horns?
Horns.
Buffalo horn.
Buffalo horn.
Water buffalo and buffalo.
Mm. Okay.
Water buffalo.
Horn.
Garuda, there's in the description of the Garuda, there's horns,
Okay.
Kawando.
meteor horns. Page 7 at the bottom,
Oh, okay.
something like that.
Yeah, there's other parts, making
Other parts.
Namchak ki rachak.
Te sachong kare.
Oh, really?
Sa
Di
sachong.
kongi rachak la donangdo di
Namja la.
karetsunge duse.
Da te karin chung yo na namja se ji te tang se na te pe korang da chakpo yo pe ke dong dang zhao re. Chakpo yo ba pe namja se ji te chakpo ro ba. Ra cho na je tang ka ra ma yin ba. Ja ka ra ja na ne ka namja ka ra. Da te tu pe sa chong te la da top ta ne ba chen bo. So gang ka yang pa korang le go ba dang ma nu ba.
Yeah, so on page 7 it says the Garuda's horns are made of their meteorite horns. It's to signify the wrathful nature of these Garudas. So they're like these soaring man birds, kind of. So they're meteorite horns. They're not ordinary horns. And the meteorite horns signify their total power, and that nothing can overpower these horns. Yeah.
And then on page 5, there was reference to water buffalo.
Okay. Yeah. Mahe ki dunda kararese.
Mahe ke tunda ti kapsu ta hinje yama chen tambo che yore wa. Teni ti tor yong pa kapsu ti kapsu mahe te yang korang ken konda wa che rido wa. Teni te chama wang de dune teni mahe te dena yise na. Korang tendo se song lo ju che.
Yeah, so the water buffalo that's mentioned on page 5, if you'll notice, it's part of the seat that the deity sits upon. So this harkens back to the origin story of the deity. During the time of the demon Yama, the lord of death, part of Yama's retinue was a water buffalo. And so to represent vanquishing this deity, then Yamantaka, the vanquisher of the Lord of Death, sits upon a seat of water buffalo.
I'd like to ask you can I offer you a gift? Will you accept?
Ngi ngemba kela puna digribes.
Oh, namja che ra. Oh.
It looks like a meteorite horn.
This is American bison.
Oh, American bison.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I work with the buffalo to protect the land, like
Okay.
the deities.
Wow.
That's my job.
Okay.
So I offer that for you.
Konki lega dene sachaki sungyok lega. Check it out.
Okay. That's good. Good job. Thank
Wow, thank you.
you. Okay, namja che ra.
Meteorite horn.
We've got a question online from Su Young, if you'd like to unmute.
Lama, hello. My question was just, I was wondering about the size of the protection
Hold on.
sphere.
We
Just a
can't
moment,
hear
please.
you, yeah.
Adjusting volume.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, please try again. Su Young,
Hi, Lama.
go ahead. Thank you.
Lama, can you speak on the size of the protection spheres? are they outside of the whole mandala that we're visualizing, and how big do they get? And maybe also like what is the feeling that we get from these spheres?
I missed the last part, so I heard, can you talk about the size, and are they inside the mandala of the deity, or are they outside, and then something that I missed?
Just like what is the feeling that we get from them?
What? Did anyone hear that? The feeling?
What is the feeling of the protection?
What do they feel like? Okay. Ini Sunkyo
Yep.
Rinpa Chusum di Kilkor Nang Lot Larabe, Chilot Larabe,
슬로라리.
okay.
초딩 그 슬로라리.
Yang Ya Chechung Kandridus.
야 템포 빼야 템포 상고 요사리.
Okay. Dene Denso la Tsorwa, Tsornang Rabodues.
저나 요다 요 그때 송고르레 라더니 라초 망보페 초총 더 잘합나 이 요르바 더나 이 초총총 빼 반삼에 봐 요르 라랑 다다데 자와 랭아 그 트바 그 송고강도 와 텔라티 라 초총총 망보페 녀절 던 트바나 이세네 요르 텔라티 나 이그라랑 그 energy
So they are outside of the mandala. They're like protecting the mandala, and they are enormous. They're huge. And then as for their feeling, they do have an energy that's like they're completely dense with wrathful like beings. Like each little particle in each sphere is a wrathful deity. So it's like buzzing with wrathful energy and power.
Thank you. Another question online. Ilya, would you like to go ahead and unmute?
Thank you, Lama. The question I have is, when I have my initials and my family members' initials around the ni syllable, I feel a little uncomfortable because it seems like privileging that myself and other family members over everyone else, it goes against bodhicitta. Could he speak to that, please?
Okay.
re tate ngaran misa tendesin sungjo mekpa se gosa mena yinje meje chirang ma chang tana yogo marwa cham sanga te du ta sungjo se gobati jongwa yina ti kapse tende go yore ta sungjo ta misa se goati mena nga so mekpa yinda se ya yore te sani la bu minje nga so nipa daw ka se mekpa tagarang se gol ke nipa yo mare
Dene kongi goala di changchu kisem gi gelwares kain serna onge mitsang drabo sungien drabo di changchu kisem gelwares.
산조그 셈 가tam madan gata te rana samno tongtang lo thoyo reba yena 산조그 셈데 마당와 chen reba yena yang neka ngarang chola kangaje chona te yang gobu tapje go reba te yindu yinje meje chama lyda yo go marya yinba cho lyda go yo marwa te korang ngarang chola kangaje chona yena te gobu tapje re taphi je reba tendu samno tandu sanjo sen gargo go yo mare pena sanjo sen ba chila mache ke no pa sen te don ro ta yana yu pan ro jing go le yu na cherang le chik ja yong na mache ja yong na cherang ke tendu sen go ngeli wan cha yo ro ba ti ka sanjo sen gargo ma do wa
Awesome. If you don't need to protect anyone, yourself or anyone in your life, then you don't need to put your family in the crook of the Hong syllable. It's not required. And in fact, there is another visualization that you can do in its place, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So it's not required to put you or your family in the crook of the hung syllable. But if perchance there arises something in your life that somebody needs help, that someone needs protecting, you or your loved one, then that's what that is for. And as for, is that a contradiction to bodhicitta? Absolutely not. So there are times where you need to take care of yourself, or you need to take care of your loved one. And that's what this moment is for. So let's say you're really a bodhisattva and you see someone hurling a boulder at your head, you're allowed to duck and cover. That's not a contradiction to bodhicitta.
You don't need to abandon other people at that time.
Yeah.
One more question online from Simone, and then we'll come back to questions in the room.
Thank you, Lamala. So I have a question on the 7th page. It names that above the head of Yamantaka, there is a black-waisted Garuda. So I wanted to ask a little bit about that because as far as I'm concerned, usually the Garuda in Buddhism is red. But I wanted to ask, what is the meaning of this black Garuda in particular? Because, for example, in the Bon tradition, it is a primordial being and it's very important. So what is the meaning and the importance of Garuda? Because it also appears above the head of some other wrathful deities. So what does it mean? What does it stand for?
Tin Garuda te Chitang Garuda Mare. Tin Jambar Tata ti Duptan de Nan, Zawa La Jokes in the Yore. Zawa La Jok. Zawa La Jok the Garudas in a Hinji Zonkornga. Then Garuda te Tayang Korangati in Cortiri. Cortiri, they don't to be a true Yore. Jambar Zawa La Jokes. They into the Korangi Trubaka Garuda Nambaga Tony Ying Tonsi Goni into Hinji Trupa Tauji Munjinka Yore. Hinji Trupa Tauji into Yinjin Menjate Tamarpaka Yimbaka Sa Garutana Yingo Mare.
This Garuda is unlike other Garudas in the general sense. So in the sadhana of Manjushri Yamantaka, it talks about the 6 root deities. So who are the 6 root deities? They are Yamantaka, the central figure, and then the 5 retinue deities. The 4 retinue deities, plus the Garuda. So in this case, the Garuda is actually part of the retinue of the close retinue of the deity. So it's one of the 6 root deities of Manjushri Yamantaka. In that way, we can think of the Garuda as an emanation of the deity. So it's not, we don't have to think of this Garuda like we think of the other Garudas that we've seen.
I have 2 very simple questions. On page 5, coming from the Golden Vajra and the Lotus Moon, Lotus and Sun seat, are stacked the female and male Yama and the bull and the water buffalo. So I don't know how to visualize them. Are you literally vertically stacked up, and are the male and female in union?
The Mahe Dang Langu Kandredus Denla Kandredus the Chick Chick Tang
Mare. Ni Palo Solos and Yona Tigan Metope Magadin, the Chamboji, Ni Gana Yore.
So they're like the legs of the throne, actually. And so they're sitting side by side, the water buffalo and the bull. Yeah. And then the lotus is like suspended, but they're like holding up the lotus, which is the bottom of the seat.
And the male and female are in union.
Pomo.
Mahe Ni Yorewa, Ni Jig Pori, Jig Mori Tender Love Yore. You know, Ni Hatana, the Chipas and the Palo Solos and the Yore.
So no, it's just there's one male water buffalo and one female water buffalo and one male.
And it says the male and female Yama?
다 티 강라 요래 야마 스주티 티 강라 요래.
The Yama are above. It does say stacked upon each other. That's not actually in the text. I would just cross out all stacked upon each other.
Okay, but still, I'm unclear. Are the male and female Yama? That's not the. They're like a. Is that a? What is that?
What's a Yama?
Yeah, what's a Yama?
야마 스나타 두 제렉스 줘봐. 된 총거 요래. 고랑 총도 두 이야. 두 이야스나타 나랑서 녀몽바거도 pom보거도 쳬다거도 라이프도 스나. 다 나랑서 강단나야. 탈바란 탈바탄 탐견진 부살은 로야라 강고 스니 요체들와. 대둘 저거 요래. 대라 예와 레기야스 요래. 대인도 따따따나 야마니 요나 포제 모제 요나 대 촌동 가르르스나 다두 탐킨 촌동 대근 총거 요래. 대 코랑 마강바샤라 닌데주 대게 드니 두 탐케려야 넘버 자르데로 그 던데지게 탐세르와.
So again, Yama is the name for the Lord of Death. So it is one of the 4 Maras, or the 4 demons. So generally in the Dharma we talk about 4 Maras, 4 demons, and they are the demon of the Lord of Death, the demon of afflictions, the demon of the gods, Dujipadi, Pungpo, and the demon of the body-mind aggregates. So here, the Yama, the demon of the Lord of Death, is like a stand-in for all of the demons. So he, though it's just a singular demon, it's like he represents all the demons, and the fact that the throne is on him represents being victorious over the demons.
Okay, good. That's clear. There's one, hopefully more simple question. The 10 directions, is that including inner and outer?
Chokchu kareres.
소 교수는 담보 소 이야 요러와. 되니 참 이야 요러와. 대 지혜려와. 되니 땡땅 워슨. 텔레.
So it's the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 intermediary directions, and then above and below.
Lama, so in the empowerment we discussed briefly the lineage history, and so I'm just curious more information about Gya Zantram, because there's very little information about that, and he's a very important figure in the lineage. Just any more history about how he revealed the terma, what kind of terma, maybe some of his other activities.
Gya Zantram ko loju jepa ngen thong manyo. Yena Gya Zantram te 다다 늪산제 예식이 줄바리 송도와 그 제와 그런 거 제와더니 그런 것들 취대 대야 노마야 그 취했던데서는 로지 제반 더 많이 야향종로 때 대추 망보 요렇게 자침도 다다다 신지가 거때 여러봐.
So I've never been able to read an extensive biography of Gya Shangdrom. He's an incarnation, a rebirth of Nup Sangyeshe, as it says in the Yamantaka literature. But I've never encountered a detailed description of his life or activities anywhere else. So it's really just in the Yamantaka lineage.
대동 가해를 때 대추 망보 요래 던전도 되니 이제 락반도 첨보 연거 요러와. 대인도 야향종로 던전 대추 망보 요사 말이
So other treasure revealers, tertans, if they reveal other terma, like a lot of different terma, then they're very famous. They're renowned and there's a lot known about them. But in Gya Shangdrom's case, it seems that he didn't reveal other terma, that it was just this one.
another question in the temple and also one online. Let's go here first.
I just had a question regarding Garab Dorje. I recently found a book where Garab Dorje gave commentary on the Manjushri Navasamgiti, but I just wanted to understand more on his connection to Yamantaka and how the essentially, like I guess, the Rigpa of Yamantaka. So I didn't really expect there to be a connection between those two practices in the person.
Hinje yang Garab Dorje ni ju yore. Tambo hinje ke ju song bukab so chu do apote sana Dorje tang. Dorje numbo se ta sanchuk samba kakhe che redowa. Tene teke jini te ju te rinpa hinto dzogchen ke ju pa na yin shen. Garab Dorje, Roman namjam barwe tseni. Garab Dorje, jambar hini sen rinpa hinto dzogchen ke ju pa ta chikpa re. Tene ma rinpa hinto jaga ni tene lopon tatange re law yinpa. Tsukla parke. Te parto jaga ni ju pa re. Trupton mangpo che ju yore. Te kapsu ta dzogchen ke ju pa na yin sen tangpo chong re. 아주 hinje kati jundam nangden dowa. Garab Dorje jambar hini ta hintanga pa yi hinyingbu hyab sen.
Oh, really?
Tsukla pa tang, karga pa tang, tsukla sen te dzogchen ki jupa na yi sen yore.
The Tantra Roa? Okay. So the Yamantaka Tantra the first part of the transmission of the Tantra kind of echoes the Dzogchen Tantras. So there's Garab Dorje, and then the recipients of the Tantra.
Dzogchen masters.
Dzogchen masters.
Not Dzogchen Tantra, different Tantras.
Dzogchen lineage, I should say. It's difficult because the word Gyupa can be lineage and can be Tantra. Okay.
Gyupa is lineage, Gyu is Tantra.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. The recipients from Garab Dorje in the case of Yamantaka were, as we said, like in the empowerment this morning, we read through there. I'm not going to remember all of them, but there's Vajrapani, there's like some bodhisattvas, Vajrapani, Dorje Ninpo, so Vajra, I don't know what Ninpo is in Sanskrit. And as it said in the empowerment, it went like Garab Dorje, and then, it listed Shantigarba and these other lineage masters all the way to the master Tsuglak Palge. And these, like from Garab Dorje to Tsuglak Palge, that's like the echoes the Dzogchen lineage.
Okay.
I have two questions from page 6. The first question is about the mantra that comes in the middle of the page. Om Akroteka Yamantaka Hung Pet. Can you please speak on the meaning of those two words, Akroteka?
Tate Tonda Karalago Yong Ha Kome, the Chitang Hinjagan in Nimbarwa. Savin Nimbare. The Tonda Kandas Lago Takta Ha Kome. Chitang at the Nimbat, so Tonda Injim Higomare. Ko Dratgar Ran Labden and Regayore. Kahia Jagate Nato. The young church Tsinala journey, Tunda and said, they go your marry. Garsi te jorgo yo na ngema ni pen te loza wa tamche ke jogare. Loza wa tamche nga chong ke sarwa. Ha ko so.
Eso.
Te jorgo me ne teni ti nga chu nyimpa lo ya te so Sanskrit rangja si ya te gupa junse yore. Nga cho ko tonda ha ma na de.
So what is the meaning of akroteka? I don't know. So this is the root mantra of Yamantaka. But as for the meaning of those two, I don't know, syllables, those 4 syllables, I'm not sure. So in general, you don't have to know the meaning of every syllable that you utter in a mantra. Because it's okay to just repeat the mantra, repeat the sound. So some people say that you should translate every single mantric syllable to know its meaning, but I don't think you need to, and the reasoning is in the first, in these flushes of translations that went from India to Tibet, the Lotsawas were extremely erudite and like amazingly, kind of like genius level intelligence, and they decided not to translate these mantras into Tibetan. And if we needed them into Tibetan, they would have translated them, but they didn't. They just left them in Sanskrit.
Thank you. Speaking of the move of scripture from India to Tibet, and you've mentioned the tantras today, the Vajrayana tantras, like for instance, Chakra Samvara Tantra, I did a search online years ago to see if I could access the original Chakra Samvara Tantra in Sanskrit. I could not find it. And I'm wondering if there are any of the tantras or scriptures, the Tibetan practices in existence where it's all in Sanskrit.
Te ta mangbo che jagani mepa cha charewa. Te ta rago yo mape. Kahi tarong tare tora teser raya yosare. Te chola tana. Ta kahi raya te chola tana. Tata nga so pol joya le ke tele tana. Pe masi pa yapo. Ta yosare ti kaps. Ina maye ki ta raya yo mare. La chare jagani. Jagani ti hindu ke kap charewa. Namba tor chare yo mare ta. Kache ta. Hindu to choka namba mepa mambo zirwa.
Many, if not most, of the original Sanskrit tantras are no more. It's possible that there may be a few left in existence. And if you were to find an original Sanskrit tantra and compare it to the Tibetan version, it would be excellent. So the translators of that time were of the highest caliber, and their translations were, so the Tibetan version is what to say, like definitive also. Yeah, but the cultural, I'm losing my words now, the circumstances of the time were volatile, and so a lot of the originals have been lost.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there time for more questions? Would you like to continue?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, okay. We have a little bit from the online chat.
Ya tengo comida lista. Para ahorita. ¿No quieres comer? Ay, es que no sabía. Así que...
I think that's Spanish.
Before we go to you, Simon Simone, I'll just read a question that was asked in the chat. Thank you. Given the lineage stems from Garab Dorje, is this Yamantaka therefore considered to be part of Dzogchen transmission, teaching, and practice.
잘했어요. Dzogchen
Garab Dorje ne Yongne dene Dzogchen ki kachu rebes.
Dzogchen ka chu rang yang je mare te yina yang machik te ju de mandawa tende se ne ma ju chogorwa. Garab Dorje ka 신제 그 주의 소양 고랑군이 마주 초거를 속친 그 주의 소양 고랑의 마주 초거를 다다페나 라마 카헬라 닝마 그 왕롱양 요르 까주 그 왕롱양 요르 고랑서 사마 요르와 디나 예스니 피카스 가랍도 진 잠바신이 또 솔라 주레 라마가 망보게 된다 그 주바데 요사르와
No, not exactly. So yes, the lineage harkens back to Garab Dorje of this Manjushu Yamantaka. And yes, the Dzogchen lineage harkens back in one version to Garab Dorje. But they're not, just because they originate from one person doesn't mean they're the same lineages. So like today, there are some lamas who hold some Nyingma streams of transmission and some Kagyu streams of transmission, and that same lama can transmit both. So that's how we can think of this.
Thank you. And online, Simone, you can unmute.
Thank you. So this is a very short question regarding the color. So this is a color that is repeated throughout several Rafu Yidams. For example, the Vajrapani, Vajrakilaya. So I wanted to ask if you could elaborate a bit more about the dark blue color.
kumdon tena te chuku kan sondore yedam kande je yana yang chu je yengle mayu yin to teni zog ju ko la cho yong pare chuku de le yo wa me pa ngani zog ju ko la cho yong pare kumdon tena te chu je ko la yo wa me pa ta sen ta to no ten song yo wa yedam mambo je kumdon tena te chuku la mayu yin to zog ko la cho dang yong pa ten kan sondong.
The dark blue color represents the Dharmakaya. So no matter which deity it is, the source mother of all Yidam deities is the basic space of phenomena. From the Dharmakaya come the Rupakaya, the form bodies, the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. So that's true of all deities, but the dark blue color in particular represents being unmoved from the state of Dharmakaya, or not moving from the state of Dharmakaya.
Hi, Rinpoche. Is it on?
Yeah, it's just for the people online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick question about the visualization. With the protective spheres, like it says there's protective spheres of the elements. One of them is like a protective sphere of fire. Are we visualizing like a chain of red triangles, or are we visualizing the element of fire, just like flames?
Yeah.
Tata me iching korje bana triangle go mare.
Yes.
Kom mepong me kaps mepong ko kang. Me bar de namba. Mepong ko kang. Teni mepong ko nalo tena cho mar po teni sanan soncha na zo to de chong teni yezol don chpa na yi. Me ke dor so yang cho ri do. Mepong ko kaps tenda go gore. Teni long kaps yang tenda go gore. Long dor so yang cho ri do. Cho yi kaps yang tenda go gore. Tata long jingo tata nga zon yungwa yi ren ba yin de zig yu teta ka
Okay. So this this section of the 13 tiers of protection is different from the beginning where we do the stacks of the 5 or 4 elements. So here we don't need like the red triangles to represent fire. let's take fire as an example of the elemental tier of protection here. We would visualize like a mass of burning flames, like an inferno, and yet inside those flames, they're tiny little red, wrathful deities who are like emitting sparks and like burning like little firecrackers, you know. So it's a mass of fires, but inside are these tiny little red, wrathful, hot deities. And the same would go for air and would go for water and earth. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
A few more questions online,
Okay.
First, I'm going to read a question here from Casey. In some of the materials that you've given us, Yamari is mentioned. Is there a relationship between this practice and the red Yamari practice of the Shakya lineage?
Sakya?
Sakya, Yinsare. Yamari's Gandhikare.
Hinje la yang rek. Hinje hi mare yang yore. Tata ngarang to nyame se je hinje tseda. Tendo hinje la rek ga yore ba. Hinje ma ho hi mare yamari de nga sun rong ju ba na yore. Te ta ye te se kakare.
Okay. Not so drikungla.
Yore.
Okay. Yes, there's different versions and lineages of this Yamantaka. So our Yamantaka here, this Yamantaka is different from this red Yamantaka that is also in the Drikung lineage. So there's different versions, different lineages of Yamantaka.
Thank you. And now, Mark, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Thank you. On page 12, it says, from Tikshana arises the spear of sharp swords. What specifically is Shana?
Tikshana.
Tikshana sine that radela yore ba.
Raldri. It means sword.
Thank you.
Dichiro de Tikshana le Raldri. Okay.
Radhe Understand that Pansam me pate Radhen Kondonik, Sunkorche Yorba.
Okay.
No Jimba Sut Kang Tipani Pats and Rogona. Romotapa. Radhe Colonna Radhe. Getting also number of Shopana is in Radhe Cordeni. Then Papa and Samipa. Then the Kondoni,
So one of the tiers of the 13 tiered protection sphere is swords. So it's not just like a sword. It's like these swords that are so thick and connected that nobody could pass in or out. Like, so it's a whole sphere of swords that are one tier of the protection.
One more question from the temple?
I just have a question. When you're making reference to a luminous body, are you referring to sentient beings? Because sentient beings that I believe I've seen were orbs of light with rainbow patterns inside them, and they're in movement. I'm not sure what I've seen. Is that sound similar to sentient beings?
Yes, you.
Kongi nyam yongla. Kong the tigle drabo tong songs. Then
Metamorphosis.
the tigle drabo ki tigle drabo ja ki tigle drabo tong songs. Then di semchen rebe di ki laptu semchen drabo rebes.
Tate Kingsena Semki Sipari, Kingsena Naranga Nawa. Naranga Nawa Titigasa Sel Shadeva. ngarange ti slow la te o shai goya te ge gyu te ngarang nang la yore te nang la yo pa la te ne te jing jing che na te ni ti sro la so nang yo ge yore ba ngarang su thuga gom ja de te ri do ba yena te gyu te ngarang su su zobo ga la yore ba te kande na Jacksona rang na wa yin ba re Jacksona ya sro ni che tende ga senji yin ba tende te se te o gra chot nang de wa yana si ba re
Dene di hlaku ja nang nang jin rang jin res di drabo rebes
la ku kun ja dang wo na yi res na te pa che yin jo ma re 가르 있으나 라고 인자던 원나인데 샤고는 배 냥내 요런 볼었어요. 샤고.
So the orbs of light that you have seen from our perspective would be outer manifestation of your own mind. So it appears outside to be orbs of light, but this is the basis of it is in your own mind. So it's called like rang nang. So like natural perception, natural manifestation that occurs as a relationship that comes from your own mind but appears to be light from outside. We practice that. We practice that in a Tugel meditation. So that's what I would say about that. Is it a living being? It's possible it's a living being also. That's also possible. Is that the same as what we're talking about when we say the deity is made of light like a rainbow? No, that's something different. What if for that being, what do I want to say? The deity is a light, body like a rainbow. When we say that, for that to appear to others' eyes or to appear to our own eyes, that would take a very long time.
Thank you.
One more question here, yeah.
Is it like an effort at first, or is it also like spontaneous and like kind of feeds into more effort? Like, I guess beginning and kind of strengthening it that way. Should it be like, for me, a lot of effort, or in general?
Compassion, eh?
Ninja
Jayala. Ninja Jayala, Zora des Gogori. Kayalan, Zoa Shada Mago Duni Ninja Yodini, Tandaya Yori. Tengema Koranga Yang, Leki, Ma Jamwaka, Tonda Hotel, Te Yosipari. Kashel Pe Ninja Mamma Toyando Puduni. Puduni Pe Ninja Mabo Yori. Tandana, Koninji Chunduni Yori, the Yena, Tarantella Montune, Zoa Gogori. Zoa Gogori Mato Ninja. Chung kapsu yona yang te ramba yin de pa meba chang ro de yin ka
You need some effort in cultivating compassion. So you do need some effort. It is possible to be a naturally compassionate person, and that kind of natural compassion really doesn't require intentional cultivation. That's possible. That happens. But for example, like there are people who are really compassionate even as young children. But even if that's the case, if that young child grows up and doesn't intentionally kind of maintain that compassion, there's a risk of that compassion like petering out. So in most cases, yeah, it needs to be sustained with some kind of effort.
Kahela tesa kenyeng je chowa yore. Kahela chona yo mare. Te indi te kola yanja sano je tan. Oh. Ta ngarang ka amate de na yin. Je ke second dona te du ngala sen la kare yong sare san. Oh, te du ta ngala pe sen la chowa pe ma si pe je gare wang. Sam gare wang. Yina te nga ka ama marewa sangurwa, de tunro rewa sangurwa. Te kasa yang yang jar sangno ji tangurwa. O, de tunro te, tata donga nyang yinpe tunro te, tata cherang ka ama mare, denpa re te. Yina ngema cherang ka ama sayo pa, ting ting re. Tenre si sangno yang jar ji tang. O, teni yang chowa mandrapa ji yung re. Ta karita na samsando. Teni te tawe ko chowa yopo kapsu, ta ti chowa te pa jia chiri tane. Oh, ndi tunro de jikpo mare is. Tata kanga nyang yinpa sempi chama. Nga ke pa tang, ma tang, tanda se ma nyong pa. Yo mare is. Tati senti pa jara chiri chiri tang. Nyingi pa jara jang tapin rawo tanda senti jang ki yorwa. Chowa gogo tuwa.
When we're talking about effort regarding compassion, we're really talking about techniques to cultivate compassion. So in the Ngundro teachings, the teachings of the preliminary practices, Jigten Sumgun gives this kind of method. And he says, so sometimes if somebody sees a tormented animal, they'll feel compassion for that animal. But sometimes people don't. And so for the people who don't, the method is, well, imagine if that animal was your mother. Then how would you feel? And that will do it for some people. Some people will say, oh, if my mother was experiencing the torment of this animal, that would be too much. But then some people don't feel anything. And those people say, but it isn't my mother, it's just some animal. And then the response to that Jigten Sumgun gives is, well, actually, that animal has surely been your mother or father in one lifetime or another. And so that tends to cut through and give someone like a, wow, that's actually connected to me. And then Jigten Sumgun goes on to say, but it isn't just that animal. Actually, all living beings have been your mother and father in one lifetime or another. And so there isn't a single being that hasn't been extremely close to you or isn't extremely close to you, to kind of develop a really like heartfelt sense of how sad it is to see someone suffering. And then you improve upon that and you unfurl that feeling more and more. So that's the method, that's one way of cultivating compassion, and that's what we mean by effort.
Tata semjin tsama cheranga patang matang tanda se yore se jute nyingye chewe tap tipum tap mare ngune sen di na yi cha de yore te ngune re tate cheranga kisano tanda ta cherang di gana jiktin di gana chewa lane lu katse lan yore te suche ka hako mare rang mang rane Peni tindaka kapsa ta pama tang chopo chomo yore wa di kapsa, tsama kapsa. Jewa jan takwa, jewa jan ro yore. Ha kosunga.
Yes.
Teni sanje chomden deke, kong ta tsama ha kogo yore wa. Te pa tang ma tang chopo chomo se manyo nga so pa tsa chik, tsewa chenpo tanda se manyo wa chuchik maduk song yore wa. Then also 그 상노타나 logic 상노타나 디나지. 럽터 그래. 다 탑히지 볼을 약바 말이 때문에 단에 그 돈다 된다 차대 여러 봐. 아 고소모.
But we shouldn't describe recognizing the fact that all living beings have been our mother and father to be merely a method for cultivating compassion. It's actually just the way it is. And we're just thinking about the way that it is. So in this world, how many lifetimes have we inhabited? It's impossible to know. It's impossible to count how many lives we've had. And in each of those lifetimes, we've had a father and a mother, close companions, male and female. And we simply exchange lifetime to lifetime. And so the Buddha, the transcendent conqueror, understood all of this and understood that actually all living beings at one time or another have actually been our mother, our father, our close male and female companions. And so that's what we think about. And if we think about it in this way, then we can actually really like enter the true meaning of the situation. So it's not just a method, it's like the actual fact.
One more question online?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. It's a two-part question. First question is, where can the more extensive text be found? The sadhana.
It's at the Garshan Institute.
Thank you. And then the second question is, what about material possessions in reference to the same question? I think it was a question from earlier about placing oneself and loved ones within the sphere for protection. Since being a renunciate comes from knowing we cannot keep anyone, anybody, or anything safe.
Damn. Okay, let me try to say this by tired mind. Nato shapkula dine mitsang dang nyemba la shako gurwa dine ngato la ngejung yuna dine o mitsela su yanaya ngato nyar tupke mares drabo hako gdu duga.
Tende yang rite. Jirtam chutam chekarangi muta pare yorangi rite. Yena ya neka jin parche se jotela dogbu tab yore. Tende ke tab shire. Neka jil somjo se ke tab yore. Nami yang joro ambe pate si to kumarwa.
Yes, that's true. That the nature of all phenomena is in this way. It is empty and impermanent. It is impermanent. This sadhana, wherein we protect those that we love in this lifetime, it's when we encounter a temporary obstacle, a temporary like negative circumstance. So it's on a temporary level. If we have a temporary obstacle or someone we love has, this is a method that we can use.
No, okay. Okay, maybe tomorrow again, okay? Okay, page 9. Maybe do English.
English, okay.
Yeah, okay.
We'll do it in English. Dorje Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Gampopa, Pagmo Drupa, and Lord Dragungpa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state by defeating all enemies' confusion. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn may it arise. Where it is born may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Dragungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study and practice, contemplation and meditation until the end of samsara.
Okay, that's it. Good enough. Because long life prayers already included. Lama, Gongkam, Zama, so on, that's a common long life prayer.
So the prayer that starts, may all the Lamas have good health, includes the long life prayers.
Okay, everybody.
So on behalf of the Sunray people, tomorrow there's a ceremony.
I can explain.
Okay.
So, Rinpoche and everyone, you are invited. Tomorrow is Friends Making New celebration. The Sunray Meditation Society is hosting a new moon fire down in the arbor, and that will happen at 9. And we'll be going to the waters of forgiveness, the stream, and purifying, making correction, any renewal, and any relationships that you might have. There's some sacred dances and meditations that will be down in the arbor. You're welcome to. And then in the afternoon, noon-ish, we're coming here, and we are bringing out a crystal that only comes out once a year, and we're gazing upon that crystal to restore our crystalline mind. And so you all are invited to participate in that. And before all of that begins, we're going to have a fire puja at 7:30 in the morning at the Peace Stupa. And you are all invited to join us. And maybe the signal will be such that we can, oh, you're probably not hearing me because I didn't use the mic. I'm so sorry, my online friends. We'll try to stream it. We'll see.
Oh, really? A fire puja?
Maybe.
Amazing. Why not?
And
say the whole thing again?
Did you get anything that I said through the mics? Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
But so also that everything needs to be cleaned, right?
So in preparation, if you can take all your belongings with you, and if you can stay a little bit later and help me stack chairs, thank you. We'll clear the temple in preparation for that. Thank you so much.
And so in the morning is the Yamantaka fire offering. Are you sure it's at 7:30 or 8 o'clock? Fire offering.
You're the one with the schedule, no?
Oh, that's weird.
It could be 8 o'clock if that is beneficial for health.
Is 8 o'clock okay, Rinpoche?
Okay.
Okay.
8 o'clock. Then at the beginning of what's happening here, summary, Rinpoche is going to make some prayers at the beginning, and then we're going to meet in the afternoon from 3 to 6 and continue with the Yamantaka. Any questions? All good?
I know, right?
Thank you, Lama. Thank you, Sangha. Thank you, Lotsawa.